Hi, and welcome to Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what inspiring architectural images made our Pinterest boards today. There was lots of really exciting things that came through across the course of the weekend. A lot of really nice high-end residential properties, some beautiful landscaping and water features, and some interesting use of joinery and materials. So I'm going to jump straight in. The first property is a beautiful high-end residence that had some exquisite detailing in it. Some of the key pieces for me were around the front fence design. So the house itself is a two-story and it's got a lot of timber screen features in it, but externally they've gone for this stone fence, which I really like. And we can see the door there, and then with these mature trees it just looks amazing. I don't know how long ago this dwelling was finished, but I just thought it presented really nicely and quite warmly to the street. It doesn't feel overpowering or overwhelming, at least not from this particular angle. We can see that the use of the fence and then the greenery and then the staggering of the door, it's sort of shrinking that two-story mass right down to sort of pedestrian level, which is really, really nice. They did some exquisite staircases in this property. I really liked this curved one that we see in this image that's sort of spiraling up. It is like a cantilevered stair, as in the steel stringer is on the outside edge with that handrail and across that timber screen, and then the inside we just see the balustrading, which is very, very fine. So I really liked that as a staircase. Their other staircase from that property, again, same principle as the curved one. So we've got the steel stringer on the outside edge of that stair, and then the inside edge, it's just very fine tensioned steel rods that are helping to hold that up. And then these ones have the LED strip lighting under the nosing front edge there, so it's lighting up the tread, or in this case the floor below. So really beautiful stair detailing, really beautiful fences. And then the last detail that really caught my eye from this property was the front doors. We can see the scale of the person. We can see that the door ends there, sort of lining up with the bottom of this catwalk or canopy above us, but the material and the handle line itself continues all the way up that two-story void. So a really beautiful way to create a really stunning and grand entrance. And then lastly, from that project, they had this exquisite water pond on the inside of their property, and then this little folly, which is where I've pinned it on our Pinterest page, on our folly board, that you sort of walk out to and then can sit in and contemplate that reflection garden. So I just thought that was a stunning little feature. There is quite a lot of water features in today's pin, so please enjoy. The next property that caught my eye was this little apartment. I really liked the way the steel beams had been used as dual purpose for book storage. We see it in this angle here and this angle here. This sunken section of floor is actually a pool, or an internal pool or bath. There are several other images on this particular article showing them using that pool, which I found really interesting. But what I really liked was the way that these beams sort of dissect the space. And then the material palette itself is carried down into the joinery. So that's why the image made the board above the use of an indoor pool. And again, we can see it. I got really excited with this bedroom. I've pinned it twice. Is the use of joinery. What I found really interesting, we can see that black steel beam cutting through this bedroom, and then they've gone for the black joinery at the foot of that bed. And then at the head of the bed, where they've got a different material, they've got the concrete, they've actually gone for a lightweight sort of blonde timber sort of floating shelf structure at the head of the bed. So I found that really interesting to contrast the two materials at the end of the bed, and what could feel like a really confined space, particularly using a black tall joinery unit at the foot of the bed, is balanced by this courtyard aspect on the other side with all this natural light pouring into the room. So what potentially could feel like quite a dark and crowded space actually feels much larger and much lighter than it probably is. So I just really liked that design element of that. This gallery of an S space, I really liked that. The image that caught my eye on the article this morning was this one. I liked the fact that the mezzanine gable was presented as open, and then the ground floor was presented as a really solid stone mass. We can see that entry doors, they're sort of like dual layering there of the stonework, creating an intriguing entry. What I also really liked about this project was, again, these reflection pools that sort of wrap around the building. And you can see that they've planted trees, they've got planter boxes in them, and then we have, again, that sort of catwalk across the moat, if you will, there, and then we can see the fish in it. So it's quite shallow, it's not an overly deep reflection pool, but I just thought that was a stunning element. And again, it does the same thing, it's reflecting the building back at itself, and then we can see it presenting to the street. So I really did think that was a great use of landscaping to really highlight a building. And then we can see an internal angle on that, of those stone walls. We can see some soft green, we can see the mix of the pebble, and again we can see the depth of that reflection pool. It is really quite shallow, so I really liked that. And then finally, from that project, an internal shot. That cantilevered stone stair really works well with the stonework walls that are helping to hold that up. We can see that overlapping here, which is that external entry there. And then we can see the mezzanine. It's a bamboo floor, like literally bamboo poles for that flooring. And I found that a really nice combination, as I say, of a heavy bottom structure with this really lightweight bamboo structure that's quite open sitting on top. So that's why that one made the board. This little bookcase storage idea, I really liked the way it sort of was just a reading nook. It's only big enough, obviously, for one chair, but we can see the books are sort of wrapping around, creating that little nook, and then it has some really nice dedicated reading light directly above that chair. So I felt like that was a well thought out reading nook. This particular house, I just really liked this screen. I feel like it's on perhaps a boundary wall, and just the way that it prevents people getting in, but it's got some depth in it with the screens, the way they overlap, and then this little solid element of a piece of design in this sort of off center to that I really liked. So I really like the composition of that photo, and then the way they've laid out the screens, I guess. So it is on our screen board. This image here, I just really liked this piece of joinery. It's from the inside of this house next to it. I just really liked this it felt like an entry mudroom sort of space where you'd sit, you might tuck your shoes away or whatever. And then we can see that blonde plywood ties through to further joinery within the property and works really well with the inside of those window frames. Here is an external shot of that. What I really liked, they got some beautiful horizontal lines happening in their facade, which I really enjoyed. We can see it more here in this front entry shot. We've got that beautiful eyelash. It's a favorite detail of mine to put over doors. The house in Gisborne that's about to go under construction has very similar sort of horizontal elements, if you will, to this project. Totally different material palette, totally different floor plan, but some of the same things that really I enjoy putting into my designs I found in this design. And I also like the way they'd wrapped the corner with this window. So they've created a really long horizontal element to really complement that roof line by using a black material between the windows and tying it all together, and the way they'd wrapped the corner. What they'd chosen to do is a solid framed corner. I personally prefer to do a butt jointed window where there is no frame. It just, I feel, lightens the whole corner up, and it is something that I have incorporated in a number of designs to date, and is again definitely going into the Drumcondra build, which is currently on site here in Geelong, and it looks amazing. I pinned this little alfresco space. I just really like that. We can see that the roof line and the wall line extend out to sort of create this three-sided alfresco space, so you're quite protected from the weather. Given the height of that roof, you are exposed to more weather than you would be if that was solid filled, but I really like the form that creates. And then we can see, set further back from the house, we've got this outdoor fireplace, which I really like, and there's actually a bath on that in that solid section of alfresco. So I found that a really lovely composition, and I love the fact that this particular outdoor bath is of the same materials as the house. It's not a separate element. It feels like it is considered and included, and it's also weather protected with that roof over it and the wall beside it, so it's not sitting out completely in the elements. So I really liked that. These Rook outdoor kitchens caught my eye today. They're a modular design where you can add bits and pieces to it. We can see cooktop, we can see fridges, we can see sinks. I just really liked the stainless steel component of it. I love the fact that it's modular, so you can mix and match your pieces and pretty much design an outdoor kitchen that's going to work for you as a chef and also for your space that you're designing for. So I pinned just a couple of different, this one obviously is full height, goes to floor, bench top to floor, and this one is has just legs with openings underneath. So I really liked that. This little house here, I really enjoyed the landscaping, the use of color, the way the paving sort of breaks it up. And then I really like they've actually wrapped the outside of this particular property with a timber look screen, which I just think just softens that whole elevation. So that for the landscaping more than anything caught my eye. This project here was all about, well, there was lots of stairs today. So this one here was a stair. I'm just looking for the stair. Oh, there it is there. So this is a stair here from the first floor, and we can see the suspension wires heading from the ceiling downward, and we can see that there's a solid wall and then a balustrade sitting on top of that. We can see some joinery on the top level, and here's how it is beneath that on the ground floor level. All we've got is those tension rods coming down, no handrail or anything on that stair. It just, as an image from where the camera has shot it from, so from the far side of this sort of open plan room, it just is a beautiful sort of silhouette of a staircase descending down a wall, and then to see how it integrates with upstairs is really, really lovely. And even the choice to run these windows at the top of that balustrade height is really nice. Anyone who's ever worked with me knows that I have a real thing about lines, and everything must line up for a reason. So I just felt that was really elegant and simple staircase, and then beautifully detailed on the upper level. Again, this quirky little stair here, you can just see the little rises heading up to this little sort of recessed nook that acts as a mezzanine level to this living space. I don't know how successful I would be here in Australia at actually getting that through a building surveyor, but I love the form on the wall. I love the materials, so that's why that one is on the board. The farmhouse here, I just liked the use of materials. I felt like it was really well considered, sort of parapets that we can see. That was the staircase that I was admiring earlier. And then this is it. So the same detailing that's gone into that stair is actually playing into the outside form. So we can see that the walls and the materials are creating shapes within the rectangles themselves, but all the lines are lining up. We can see this cladding line wraps around and becomes that line of the horizontal window element that's breaking it up. And then we've got full height glass. We've got full height screens. It's just a really well considered little house, and I really like it. The Glennon residents had some different ways of doing things. So this kitchen, I pinned it for the materials. It's really interesting that they've gone, all this wall is sort of blonde timber for both the integrated fridge here. We can see it for the overheads. And then we've sort of got this stepping effect in the bulkhead. It was just something I hadn't seen before. So that's why I've put it on the board. And then it's bookended at the other end with a solid black piece, which I'm assuming is a pantry. And then we can see the island bench is sort of that solid black, and the base unit over the other side is the solid black. So it's kind of that cooking triangle. We can see the sink, the fridge, the sink to the pantry, and then I'm assuming cooking's on the back wall. So it's just something a little bit quirky and a little bit different that's made it to the kitchen board from that project. The staircase I really liked, so it's timber. We can see it's got a solid balustrade wall, but the treads themselves are open, so that was something a little bit different. And this is it externally, and we can see that they've used these timber screens on the outside. So an interesting combination of materials, and that's why that's made the board today. So yeah, I thought that, you know, it sort of carries through, doesn't it, really? That outside material palette is playing on the inside, and then the design quirks of sort of doing solid and then one material and then stepping it for splashback, overhead, bulkhead, and then the choice to do a solid balustrade with open treads. Just really quirky and different. So that's why that is on the board today. The Bonito house, just presenting as an elevation with these two strong stone walls either end, and then we've got this red steel cantilevering out for the roof and the floor. It's just a really strong elevation, and their color palette really helps to make it jump. I also pinned it for the kitchen. So this is quite a rustic build, as we can see. Sorry, I've disappeared. This is quite a rustic build in terms of material palette and form, but as in terms of a kitchen, it's actually got this amazing skylight that runs over top of it, which really lights that up well. We can see this sort of really rugged cooking grill, and of course the all-important coffee maker there. So that's why that has made the board. It was just something a little bit different. The Wilderness Tower made the board again in landscape elements under folly. I just thought that was an exquisite little shape to place in the landscape. And again, I really like the use of material and the way that that's sort of wrapping down. It sort of funnels down, if you will, in that spiral shape. So I really liked that. This first digitally fabricated house, I liked it for the materials, and I really liked the way that integrated those windows. I feel like I'm looking at sort of a modern day take on a pyramid in timber. So it had some interesting quirks to it, and that's why it has made the board today. So that was all the interesting things that have come in over the course of the weekend. We'll finish here with one of my favorite fireplaces that we've ever done. It is in Bespoke House for the golf course house. This is a wood burning two-sided, I think it was a chimenea brand fire. We did it on a suspended concrete hearth, and at either end we've got these vertical concrete, clients using them as planter box. This photo was taken in the warmer summer months. In wintertime, the plants come out, and that's where you store your wood. So I found that it's just one of my favorite designs, obviously using some of my favorite materials, which is concrete and black steel. So thank you so much for joining me today on Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I look forward to showing you more of the wonderful architectural inspiration from around the internet tomorrow. Until then, take care. Thanks. Bye.